एक दिया तुम्हारा और एक राह है मेरी, ढल जाएगी काली रात अंधेरी। अब डोर डोर सा हंस बटोरना आए, देंगे नहीं नहीं, हम हार नहीं मानेंगे, हम हार नहीं मानेंगे, हम हार नहीं मानेंगे, कह दो नहीं मानेंगे, हम हार नहीं मानेंगे, हम हार नहीं मानेंगे। उनके पंख सुनहरे होते हैं, दूरी उनको और पास ले आती है, और उड़ाने हम बिखराए संसार नहीं मानेंगे, हम हार नहीं मानेंगे, कह दो नहीं मानेंगे, हम हार नहीं मानेंगे, नहीं मानेंगे, कह बस उनको ही सलाम देंगे, से आगे जो औरों को रख पाते हैं, हम सूरज हैं अंधकार नहीं मानेंगे, नहीं मानेंगे, नहीं
Thank you so much, HDFC Bank. That was such an important message and such a pertinent opening to today's discussion. Good morning, everyone. We'll be beginning shortly. In next couple of moments, we'll be talking to India's top six CHROs about the changes that are happening at workplaces, how different workplaces are navigating through this current crisis of COVID, and what you should do to remain pertinent at your workplaces. Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome. On behalf of HDFC Bank and Times Jobs, I Yojana Sharma, gladly welcome all of you to today's virtual CHRO panel discussion. We are living in a very uncertain time. COVID-19 crisis has unscrambled the workplaces that we know it. Work from home, which was supposedly a privilege at India Inc. leadership, is now an en masse routine. But are people liking it? Is it productive enough? How are workplaces making the business needs? To talk of all these aspects, HDFC Bank Spectra and Time Jobs have envisaged HR discussions titled under HR Rebound, under which we are having this discussion today. I'm thrilled and privileged to have a very august board of CHROs with me to talk about reimagining workplaces amid COVID 19 and, most importantly, how to leverage business opportunities and keep the workplaces going. Something, a lesson that all of us need here to keep going even in the tough and time of crisis. I have with me Mr. Vinay Rajdan, CHRO HDFC Bank. Hi, sir. Mr. Sunil J,
Hello.
HR
Yeah.
Consumer Business Johnson and Johnson. Hi, ma'am. Udmed Pawar, partner and head People and Performance and Culture KPMG. Hi, Mr. Pawar. Rohit Vishal Gupta, CHRO, Wipro GE Healthcare South Asia. Hi, Mr. Gupta. Gopinath Pulaigari, Director for Human Resources, Verizon. Hi, Mr. Pulaigari, and Chaitanya N. Srinivas, Vice President and HR Head, IBM India and South Asia. Hi, sir. A very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for sparing time to come and join us for this discussion. And as we speak, we have a huge audience base of timesofindia.com, HR and job section who are watching us live here as we speak. We are all very eager to listen to your thoughts, to your inputs, to your tips, to your advice on how to manage this particular unprecedented times of crisis and how to make a market workplaces. Today's discussion will have three major poles. First is when we talk about COVID 19 and workplaces and what's happening at workplaces, what is the so called new normal. The second leg will be all about decoding the new normal. And here I would expect all of you to pour in your responses from your respective domain. And the last, most pertinent, and the most thoughtful one will be how to navigate through this challenging time. I think that's a section that I'm also particularly looking forward to take a lot of tips and understanding from this August panel. Without keeping you from any further ado, I'd like to open this house for discussion. May I welcome Mr. Vinay Rajdan, CHRO HDFC Bank, to please talk about the challenges of COVID 19 at workplaces. And he's most welcome to share some stances from his workplace as well. Mr. Rajdan, the panel
Yeah.
is all yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Yojana, and a warm welcome to all the panelists and to a large audience who are connected to this event. Look forward to interacting with all of you and look forward to getting some useful inputs, suggestions from all of you as well. I think it can be safely said that not many organizations would have planned for something like this. At least we did. Okay. And the whole model of working was around physical location of work. And when we, to use a simple analogy, when you try and learn swimming, the coach throws you in the deep end, and you're trying to sort of ensure that you don't drown. And after a few such sessions, you manage to come to the shallow end, and your feet start touching the floor, and you feel okay. I can just keep my nose above water now. I think that the experience for us has been similar in that sense. I think also something what needs to be appreciated is that banking is an essential service. So we didn't have a situation where all people could just sit at home and work. And because it's banking, you have very strict security protocols. We don't have internet in office, so we don't allow many of the things which are normal for many other organizations because it is a banking sector. So to keep our branches at some level of staffing, so the customer service can, keep on happening, keep the ATMs loaded with cash, which people would naturally go to in such situations, and keep the whole organization, which is about a lakh and a half, kind of distributed, spread all over the country with hundreds of touch points, keep it going. I think to say that we knew how to navigate this whole thing would not be a correct reflection of the events. I think what we very quickly did was to have a business continuity call every day amongst the senior people, and that continued for almost a month. And as we, kept getting our IT infrastructure in place and getting, ensuring that there were differentiation between red zones and orange zones and green zones, and as the whole country was sort of coming to terms with it, we also managed to sort of keep the flag flying, so to say. And very proud to say, and I must say this, that kudos to thousands and thousands of our people who marched in every day to the branches and to the various operating centers, ID staff, various parts of the organization who kept the system running, and without sort of hyperboling the issue, but HDFC Bank is a big bank and there's a lot of customer base that we have. A lot of people use our services. So the onus to ensure that services were kept going and the customer needs were met. I think it took all the effort that all of us put in on an everyday basis. So that was a nutshell our experience. There have been some learnings, some things which we improved, something which we thought we could do differently, some opportunities which have emerged out of it, which we'll touch upon as we go further into the discussion.
May I now request Ms. Sonal Jain to please share her set of experiences, because FMCG has gone through a very tough time and FMCG workplaces have actually gone through a tectonic shift, so to say, to keep their businesses going. Ma'am, can you please enlighten us on what's happening at your workplaces?
Sure. Thank you very much, and a very warm welcome to everybody. And I must begin by saying this has been a very tough time, I think personally and at an organization level, because we have to sort of just go through something like Mr. Vinay said, it was just a deep sea. And many of us, like me, who don't know swimming. So it has been interesting and it has been a very tough time. But I feel truly humbled to represent Johnson and Johnson, and we are a broad-based healthcare organization, and hence our responsibility becomes even more heightened to ensure that we are working towards a community, doctors, patients, nurses who are waiting for us in this time to play a very big role in the COVID times. Uh, J&J is actually sort of truly driven by purpose, and our purpose is blending science, heart, and ingenuity to change the trajectory of humanity. And that's a big purpose to have. But at the same time, our global CEO said we are built for times like these, and everybody at J&J actually experienced it in all manner. And what do I mean by it? And I think there were two foundational elements which helped us really starting to swim and then figuring out what's the next way forward. And those two foundational pillars were science and technology. I think science, innovation, technology continue to be our first pillar. And the second pillar was really about empathy, purpose, and care. And these were the two things which was enabled by our leadership tone at the top. And this was really a time at every single leader of the organization sort of really stepped up to say, this is what we stand for. Our employees, our customers, and our patients, and then our communities, and finally, our shareholders and stockholders, the way we call them. And while we will get into the conversation a little bit more detail, I think there are five areas that I feel incredibly proud, of how we have leaned in, and a lot of learnings coming at a daily basis. One is health and safety. So health and safety of our employees, like many other organizations, were at the utmost importance. And how did we do? Are you able to hear me, Yoshna? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, and how did we do it? I think there were a lot of sort of digital apps, there were a lot of digital resources. We want to, our aspiration is wanting to be the healthiest workforce on the planet in the next few years. And really sort of, deep diving into some of our world class resources that we had called Energy for Performance in Life, which quickly pivoted to a digital way of understanding what is mindfulness and what is resilience in these times. There were a lot of critical roles in our plants, in our R&D, who were focused not just on the delivery and the manufacturing aspect, but also science and innovation, because we are at the forefront of the vaccine development across the world. So, how do we take care of the essential services workforce who is actually coming up and being at the workplace on a daily basis? The second one that I'll call up is policies and benefits, and multiple policies and benefits in a very quick turnaround time for us to learn what can we do. Employee assistance program, we had caregiver leaves. We're also a healthcare company, so there are a lot of trained medical J&J professionals who were out fighting with COVID along with patients. So there is a 14 weeks leave that we declared for them in the next year if they're fighting in the front line as the frontline health workers to really ensure that they are protected and served, as we call them, at this given time. We also had telemedicine. We have something called as gym reimbursement. So really ensuring the fitness of our people. But we know right now our employees cannot go to gym. They cannot access anything externally. So we've actually extended the gym facility and a gym reimbursement, the health reimbursement when people are working from home. Small little things, but I think it does matter a lot to our people. The third was around our people leaders. And again, like I said, tone from the top. So ensuring that our people leaders are fairly equipped, enabled, and they are the ones who are leading with care because organizations can form multiple policies. But if the employees do not experience it on a daily basis, then then it doesn't happen really, right? Because the employee experience gets created at the front line along with the line managers. The fourth is diversity and inclusion. And even during the COVID time, we rolled out a policy for LGBTQ community, and we said we will not hold on any progressive policy that we need to be rolling out because this is the right thing to do. Because this is the time we have to build far more inclusive organization than ever before. And finally, around capabilities. So how do we really pivot around digital? And it wasn't easy. And like Mr. Vinay said, there's been a lot of learning. I think sometimes we have failed, sometimes we have learned, sometimes we have taken some risk, but that's perfectly fine. But what I can confidently say is we are definitely one step ahead from where we were. So, happy to get into any of the sections in details, but I think that's where a lot of personal learning and learning at an organization level during these really tough times in COVID.
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, I think for me, the two most important aspects are coming out of this were that you have to have an equipped and an enabled workforce to move through crises like this. I would quickly like to move to Mr. Unmesh Pawar. He comes from a consultancy. What's his experience of, navigating through this crisis?
Thank you very much. I think good to be here amongst all of you. I think it's well said, right? I think what has happened here is not something that one of us have been really prepared for or have been equipped for. So I think is the stuff they say is the things they don't teach you at B school is exactly what transpired. And I think all of us who believe that we have so much of data and insight that we can leverage on to make smart decisions, all of that got challenged overnight. So KPMG, for everybody's benefit, is 25,000 people across India. We have two big parts of our business. One is the assurance side, which is tax and audit. So we do audits, we advise on tax to our clients. And the other side of our business is really advisory, which is management consulting, management advisory, risk advisory, cyber advisory. And I think overnight, right, and a business like assurance, which we believe that people have to be at client side, people have to be at work because there is so much of confidential stuff that we're dealing with that we cannot have people work from home. Overnight, we were pushed to have 25,000 people at home working from home. We have another 10,000 people that are part of our global business services kind of an organization. Overnight, in about 2 or 3 days, we had more than 3,000 desktops shipped out to people's homes to ensure that they were active and live. I think what is amazing is that I think how our IT infrastructure scaled up, and I think it's been what more than 120, 30 days that we've been in this right now. But I think it scaled up so well that we never really had believed that we will have so much of resilience built in. I think people have stepped on to very different levels in the organization. And I think as soon as COVID happened, we went out there and our teams are working with the government of India and various state governments right now supporting our fight against COVID. And I remember I think within about 2 or 3 weeks of this whole COVID situation happening, our CEO Chairman Arun and I were on calls with some of our people who are on the front lines working with our clients as well as working with the various central and state governments. And I had two stories which really personify how people step up. And I remember having a conversation with some of our people who were working with the central government. And there was a set of team members who hadn't actually had a single wink of sleep for more than 80 hours. Now, as leaders, you say, whilst you do all of this, it's important, but take care of yourself. You don't want to burn yourself thin. And it's very interesting the response that we got from one of our team members, who said, I understand the value of every waking moment that I have. Because if I and my team members were to sleep, it will mean that the supply chain of essentials in the country could be impacted. Another woman team member said, I grew up on stories of my grandfather when he was at war. My father had no stories to tell me. But I now have so many stories for my children and grandchildren, I can't even imagine because I've been on the front line fighting this COVID situation for the country.
I think that's a very optimistic way of looking at things on a personal level also, and at your workplace level. I think since you mentioned about how multitude of infra was taken care of in different phases and quickly, if I must add, because this whole lockdown situation came to all of us pretty unexpected. So to say, I would quickly like to have an input here from Mr. Gopinath Valagari. Yes, sir, can I have your input and your quick insights on this, please?
Yeah, thank you, Yojana, and good morning, all. It's a pleasure coming to you. I think most of them covered a lot of points, but what I would like to personally emphasize was the onus was us on a company and our purpose, connecting the world digitally. I think all of them spoke about having the entire world all of a sudden go work from home. I think the backbone of that primarily lays with connectivity. Without connectivity, you probably could not do this. And Verizon is proud to say the fact that Verizon enabled this in all parts of the globe, where we were able to ask from day one. I think the pandemic, just not the pandemic in terms of COVID, but I think our own personal, there were a lot of other things that came in, be it the Black Lives Matters, be it the floods that are happening today, be it our LOC, the borders today. I think this border crisis, I think Verizon, true to its value and purpose, rose up to the occasion and delivered it. But having said that, the key takeaway for us as a leadership team was to be able to navigate at a point of time, like Vivek and a couple of other speakers, my co-speakers said, was to navigate around where there was no references. I think we had to look at velocity and arrive at decision making where we had no parallels to go back and look at. We were quick to learn on the job. There was no data. I think the instinct, gut, and decision making came to the forefront. Of course, backing all of this is an employee first or employee centric approach, for which we were lauded by the Forbes to be the number one company across the world for our global pandemic response across the world. Back to you, Yojana, and we can talk more about it as we navigate
Yes,
through
sir,
this.
surely we will be talking a lot about it in different realms and pretty interesting points coming on from Mr. Gopinath here. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Chaitanya Srinivas for his initial introduction and a quick opening remark on this topic.
Thanks, Yojana, and good morning, all. And really a privilege here to share some thoughts here. From an IT and IT services perspective, I think working from home, working from remote locations or a remote work location has been around. But what was different this time was the scale. We very quickly had to get to less than 1 or 2% at the workplace. Literally, that 1% was to keep the lights on and the servers on. And we had to do that in a hurry. And I think a lot of you have shared that something that has not happened, it's unprecedented. But we really looked at it on three dimensions. The first one was our people, health and safety, making sure they're safe, they're able to log in, they're able to effectively work. And I think the second dimension really was around our clients, given that we serve from India, pretty much India plus the rest of the world from here. So we had to make sure from a client perspective that they were okay. And finally, I think it was all about the infrastructure. Gopi, you spoke a little bit. Um, it's not just the electronic and the connectivity, but also the regulators, the authorities, the laws, getting those exemptions from the respective departments, etc., so that we can actually work from home. So it kind of pivoted around these three areas. What we also, in hindsight now see is probably three big shifts. Initially, it was critical, essential, get working, get started, and then we quickly saw that moving to more about BAU. This is going to be not just 21 days, but oh gosh, it's going to take a little longer. And now we are probably looking at how do we thrive in this space, in this time, etc., in the new normal. So that's probably how we are looking at it. Again, it's the scale, it's the length that has really impacted us, and those three dimensions, the lenses of those three dimensions is what we are looking at. So I'm sure we'll share a lot more as we go along. Back to you, Yojana.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Yoshana has got disconnected and she had prepared us for this eventuality that if he gets disconnected, one of us have to step in. And Rohit Vishal Gupta informed me that he was part of ITC when I was also part of ITC. So I will then take this opportunity to welcome him to share his views with all of us and with all the audience that we have.
Hey, thanks, Vinay, and thank you everyone for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this panel, and a very warm welcome to all the participants. My name is Rohit. I head HR for Wipro GE Healthcare. We are basically in the business of medical devices, and while this whole COVID issue hit us, I wouldn't say that we got hit about it very suddenly. There were initial information about what had happened in China, and there were some easy pickings and learnings for us to take from there. So we had a bit of a head start. We had our business continuity plans in place, and when we got into this situation, I think we were able to quickly pivot and use the learnings from some of the other regions, and then put it into our the new normal which we talk about. The I think the big pivots that happened for us where we made a big difference was that we didn't look at it in 15-day, 20-day buckets and say now for 15 days we'll do this and then we'll get back to normal. I think when we started planning it from a perspective of 3 to 6 months window. And hence, whatever we did was from a slightly long-term perspective, saying that uh,
Okay.
we're going to get into it from a slightly more medium to long term perspective, and hence all the changes that we did were policy changes, process changes, SOP changes, and that really helped us as the thing kept on getting elongated and what we see happen around us. We are basically into the business of medical devices, as we said, and that is why we have our people, our service engineers, our sales guys, our apps guys actually working in hospitals, in COVID wards, and trying to serve the machines and keep an uptime high. And I think a big kudos would go to hence our EHS safety orientation systems that we put in place. That even despite the whole COVID thing rampaging for about 4 months now in the country, we have just one case where somebody probably picked it up at a customer location. Otherwise, we've got zero cases where people actually went into all the hospitals and continued to serve our customers and making sure that ventilators, machines had a good time. Our manufacturing units continued to run completely non-stop during this whole event, and it helped that we were essential services. But I think the big pivots are the whole aspect and focus on safety, the focus on our customers, and obviously the focus on our people. And when I talk of people, since this is an HR forum and all of us are HR professionals, I think the big thing which helped us was the whole aspect about our purpose and how everybody aligned to our purpose, making difference in the moments that matter. And there could be no other moment bigger than the whole COVID that was ravaging across the world and that is still ravaging across the world. Wherein being a part of a global organization, being a part of a global supply chain system, three large manufacturing units providing material all across supply chains across the world with the whole shipping lines, customs, or the airlines going down, nothing flying, and still making sure that we continue to make sure the parts go across the world. Machines come into the country, they reach the customers, they are put up there, and then they are serviced. I think the whole organization really worked seamlessly, collaborated horizontally, and we will talk a lot more about it.
Yes, yes. Yes, sir.
Mobile.
Sure. In fact, I would really like to talk to you about the other aspects wherein you talk about business continuity in such challenging times. The next segment that I pertinently want to talk, but before that, I must thank all my audience here. They're pouring in questions in like heaps. I have a gentleman called Kalyan Kumar who's saying that he was really waiting for this discussion and he's enjoying the thoughts and processes that are coming along. Thank you so much, Mr. Kalyan Kumar and others. Please keep holding your questions. I will be picking the top 6 and the most relevant questions for each of our panelists here. And quickly, let me unravel the next set of discussion, which is about defining the new normal. So everybody keeps saying, this is the new normal, this is the new normal. For a workforce, some of us are working from home, some of us are taking utmost precautions and going out. But we are still, everybody is wondering, is this the new normal for me? Is this how it's going to run for me henceforth in future as well? So let's talk about what's the new normal in different domains. And I'd like to rope in again Mr. Razdan for his quick inputs since banking was in essential services also. Mr. Razdan, if you could enlighten us with your thoughts here.
So, Yojana, you'll have to indulge me for a little longer than my first opening remarks this time round. See, I think
Sure,
first,
sure.
all of us must appreciate that we are part of history which is getting made as we speak. So therefore, at this point in time, I think it's normal actually to have more dilemmas, more questions, more things weighing on your mind than the clear cut answers that and clear cut answers at these times are dangerous because there's not enough precedence, there's not enough data, there's not enough information to really take views forward.
Totally.
I think one thing which has got established after listening to my co-panelists and what I know from various other colleagues and people of my network is that you see the issues around social distancing, masks, sanitizer, temperature checks, health safety, tying up with hospitals and the service providers. If someone tests COVID positive, sanitizing the place, locking it down, quarantining, those are pretty much baseline stuff now. On in terms of getting the work going, because that is obviously where the bread and butter comes from. The connectivity issues, getting PCs out to people's home, changing your security policy so you allow access to people and so on and so forth. That is also pretty much the basic now, because if you don't do that, your business doesn't happen.
Mhm.
But I think I think if we look at the situation, from my point of view, there are sets of people who are already impacted negatively by this situation, who have lost their jobs, or lost their earnings, or lost their livelihoods.
Totally.
There are set of people who are in a zone where they don't know which way this will pan out for them. Their organizations are tottering, they're financially not strong. And then there are possibly organizations that this panel represents, which are financially very strong and financially very stable. And to give a very strong signal to the organization this year, we continued as normal with our increments, promotion, bonus, everything the way we did last year because we could afford to as a large organization, and many large organizations have taken similar decisions. But I think the two, three things which I think is worth debating about in this panel is that how is the shape of work going to change in a fundamental way as we move forward? You know, and also, I think one clear concern, which is weighing more and more in my mind, and it's becoming a little more clear as we are 3, 4 months into the COVID thing, is the issue of there are three spheres typically all of us operate in. There's a personal space, there's a workspace, and there's a social space. The workspace has practically disappeared. The social space has been reduced to the digital element of it. The physical part of the social space is gone, and the personal
Totally.
space and the workspace and everything has become, a big mix up now. And I think people who are in the second bucket would be, organizations are doing pretty well, given the times. A lot of organizations they're doing pretty well, and I think they're doing well because people are really stretching at their respective homes. They're putting in longer hours than they would otherwise do when they were traveling to work every day. So I think there's a real issue, and all of us would have done the other things around yoga sessions and fun sessions and antakshari sessions and God knows what all things to keep the morale up and everything up, which is important to
Totally.
involve the family and this and that. That is also pretty much baseline stuff, right? So the issue now is that how is nature of work going to change fundamentally, and how are we going to ensure? Let me make a simple point. And I was talking to Siddharth before, my colleague from the bank who's on this discussion here. Is that typically this is the time when people would have returned from their vacations. They would have taken those breaks, whether in India or abroad, looked up their relations, or taken, gone to some hill station, gone to nearby country or wherever they. And we are already in July end, and the pressure at work is not relenting. And everyone understands my company is having tough time, cost structures are what they are, and we need to put in the extra effort, and we need to make sure that we are there. So that's creating huge amount of pressure on employees. And how are organizations going to deal with that? And typically, those things get little sidelined in this country because of the population and the sheer numbers that we have. They get little more addressed in a Western country. So that's one issue which I think perhaps it'll be great to hear the thoughts of my co-panelists also. And second is around how is what is going to alter in a fundamental way, which will therefore change the nature of work as we have known for the last 10, 20, 30 years that we've been working. Over to you, Yojana.
Totally, sir. In fact, at iJobs, we keep conducting periodic research on workforce, on people, on employee mindset, on different cultural changes that have happened at workplaces. And the latest research report that I have in hand was based on response from about 1,300 employees from different segments. They're all people who are working from different domains. And we asked them how they were perceiving work from home. And most of them said that they're not liking work from home. And surprisingly, about 55% of them said that it takes a mental toll, and about close to 20% people said it takes a physical toll as well. And some of them even cited examples where they could have maybe they were less attracted to coming down to work every day or speaking to their colleagues, or they had less focus on things that they had at hand. So virtual working has its own set of challenges. And exploring this, I would like to have an input from Mr. Srinivas Chaitanya here, considering that his workforce is mostly remote work enabled. I'd like to have his response and his understanding also here.
So I'm just going to add to what Vinay said, and even though it's a little bit of a different industry, I think what this has also done is innovation at scale. So it has brought about, whether it's a process or a function or something else, it has brought about large scale innovation and it has driven that scale that we would not have achieved otherwise. I always believe that there are opportunities in every challenge, and every pandemic will probably give us that. Not that we want one more, but really, you take learning, for example. We are about 90% online at this point. Our onboarding is 100% virtual. So things that has changed a lot, and we have been able to test these processes and say, okay, it's working. Now, will we come back and get something to the pre-March time frame? Probably not, but it won't be completely the other way either. It'll probably be something that we'll have to look at and see what makes the most sense. Now, I think we also need to separate the work part, engagement and work, as well as the social part, because that's the big change that is happening. We see that in our workforce. While the productivity has not changed, it's actually, we saw it go up initially, it plateaued, it probably is hovering up and down now. As people realized in the first phase, there was a lot of excitement, critical work, etc. And then I think folks realized that, hey, wait a second, it's taking a little longer. And now they're thinking, well, it could be some time before we come back. So there's a well being aspect. Which you typically would have seen in office. You would have met people physically. We are social beings, and that aspect has changed. And I think organizations have to address that specifically. Because we never had to do that, specifically, but we have to do it now given the environment. So I think there's a lot of things getting tested, a lot of things that are coming up. Um, as mentioned earlier, this is something new, and I think a lot of new things will emerge. Certainly, it won't go back to the 100% to what it was, but there is some hybrid. We strongly feel that you do need office space, you do need that social space to collaborate, to team, to interact, get new ideas, innovate, etc. But can we do it differently? Does it have to be 100% remote or 100% in office? I think there's an answer in the middle there. So I think on those dimensions, it'll be very interesting to see how things start coming back.
Hello. So at this point of time, I would also like to hear it from Mr. Gopinath Pulaigali, because he also comes from IT domain. What's his experience like, and what's like decoding the new normal for the IT workforce?
Yeah, thank you, Yojana. And I think a lot of what Vinay and Srinivas spoke resonates very much with Verizon. I think the key fundamental ask, I think the bigger asks, I think while we're dealing with, uh, employees being social beings and emotional well-being, about a lot of these anxiety happening around us, the fear of unknown. It's like, hey, I'm getting on to pilot a plane where I don't know what's the destination. I'm against strong headwinds, and there's nobody really that I can look out for and care for. I think how do I deal? How a company is going to deal with this emotional anxiety of employees? And most importantly, I think Srinivas spoke about it, the need for collaboration, the need for coexisting, working with others. But I think the fundamental point being, how do I connect for somebody who's joining us new? Yojana, it's all about they've been a part of the company, they've been a part of the culture. Like he spoke about, we've hired a lot of people during this pandemic, right? From the start of the year, we've been hiring left, right, and center. We continue to hire. How do I assimilate these employees to the purpose of Verizon, to the culture of Verizon, where they have not met a single employee or a single colleague? How do I engage these workforce? How do I connect these dots? And more importantly, how do I, bring this back home? I think a large part of it globally, I think, and domestically, what we are really looking at is taking a serious look at what are the jobs that can be done from home. I think we are proud about the fact that at Verizon, we identified a set of jobs that can be permanently moved back at home from the
Yes, the
US.
remote jobs. Yeah.
And so the telecommunity kind of jobs where we've helped them set up home offices, and these jobs have permanently become now jobs that have really worked from home. Having said that, I think the other part of it is also uh, none of our employees were prepared for this large scale engagement, and which was a virtual engagement all along. Being it, how do I look at my managers all of a sudden not having their workforce sitting right along with them? Uh, what are the learning needs? Srinivas spoke about 90% of the learning needs. I see maybe 110% of our learning needs being out in those space. I think it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a trade-off. Uh, it's going to be a choice of how we are going to manage between all of these. But I think the bottom line of what I would really care about is how are our employees going to be cared about during all of these? How do they feel cared? How do they feel connected? How do they feel engaged to the larger organization purpose and their customers is going to be the underlying purpose. I think at Verizon, one of the strongest thing that we wanted to emphasize was our connect back to the society, because we are a part of the society as well, to the point that we explored virtual volunteering. And I know somebody from a few panelists have spoken about it. Uh, I think we are a part of the society, and it's important that we volunteer. We looked at options where people could do virtual volunteering because it's really important for us and as a company that we give back to the society, and we leverage a lot of these opportunities in terms of virtual volunteering. I think that's where I think we slightly took a different view at Verizon to look at the society and our employees together in the same, and our customers all together at the same.
I have two very clear takeaways from what Mr. Gopinath just shared. First is employees faced a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out. Am I missing out on anything that was critical in my peer group? Am I missing out on anything that the HR said and oh my God, I did not know about it? And second is, how to keep your journey, the learning journey continued. Because if you're in office, you tend to, since you're going out, you tend to attend a lot of L&D programs, you tend to upskill yourself, or you tend to learn things, absorb things on your own. So what's happening? I would like to revert back to Sonal Jain for quick takes from the FMCG domain. What's the new normal for employees in the FMCG domain? Please enlighten us.
Yeah. So, Yojana, if I were to really look at it, societies, communities, individuals, organizations, I think everybody is going through a different journey. And in my mind, it's all about some are surviving and some are thriving, right? So, it is a journey from surviving to thriving. And hence, the evolution of the new normal is going to be different for different groups. And that to me is something which is very, very important for us to acknowledge. Now, for us in our kind of an industry, it's important to understand what are the consumers and customer behaviors which are changing. Consumer behaviors in terms of the spendings, in terms of their priorities, customer behaviors, which is truly about our doctors, medical practitioners, it is about our distributors. So their behavior change, their demand and their need truly defines what are we going to do in the new normal, right? And if I were to look at what we do, I think pretty much remains the same. But what will change a lot is how do we do it and how do we bring it forward for the consumers and customers, right? A couple of examples from a what do we do? So, from a supply chain, quality, technology, data, insights, I think they're going to play a very big role. If I were to look back and just to add, what my co-panelist just spoke about, partnerships. A lot of partnerships are happening in the consumer health kind of a space, right? So, what are the kind of partnership? What are the kind of skills that people should have to work with new partners? It requires a very different kind of a mindset. If I were to look at our own workforce, but what happens to our extended workforce? What is our approach in that domain? So, again, remains a very important point. Third is how will the leadership be in the new normal, right? When you're not meeting people, when you're having a feedback with them, when you're having a conflicting conversations with them, when you're trying to establish a new way of collaboration. So, what is the new leadership in the new normal is something that will define the new ways of working for us, right? And what is the social collaboration fabric? Because I completely agree. I think all of us believe that 100% work from home might not be the new normal, at least from where we look at it, right? There is a value of being together. There is a value of meeting each other. There is a social and a cultural fabric that we want to continue at some stage when it's safe to come back to workplace. But what would that look like? Because not 100% of people will actually come at the same time. And like I said, surviving to thriving. So there are different countries, different groups which are going through a different domain. And finally, like Gopinath said, how do we connect back to society? Again, the fabric is very different today, right? So no organization can actually thrive by just being centered towards their own self. So
So true,
how do
true.
we take
Yeah.
the society and community along with us is going to be a very critical part of the new normal whenever that new normal comes. And again, very keen to hear the points and perspectives of the co-panelists.
Totally. Thank you, Sonal, for such important points. I like your point about, where you mentioned about people are concerned about what will change. I'd like to quickly rope in Mr. Rohit Vishal Gupta, since he comes from a healthcare domain and it is one of the essential services right now. And I think even going forward, they're going to be one of the spotlight sector and the domain to watch out for. So, what's your take about the new normal for employees in your and associated sectors?
So I think I'll just go back. There is a lot of research that has already started work happening in this field, and there are some early studies which are out, and I would like to allude to some of those studies. A couple of them, basically, if we were to say pre-COVID era was at 1, and right now we are at 10. Probably once things settle back to normal, we're going to come back to about 6.5, 7. It's going to change permanently, and a good part, and some of it is going to go back to where it was, which is going to largely to do with travel, meeting customers, and also going back to some kind of workplace for collaboration purposes, etc. And the second piece, which I can see into the future basis, again, some kind of a research is that on a productivity front, while, and I think Chini said it fantastically, that productivity went up, there was an excitement around it. People take a lot of stretch and then they realize that there's a lot of burnout happening. And people have kind of found some kind of a rhythm working at home, for home, and for work while being in the same space. We see that there's some kind of a predictability that has come around in terms of what to expect from which person and how the team deliver and what are the new timelines. What changes that I think short-term to medium-term projects, whichever people are doing, or the work which is where people are individual contributors, that's happening fantastically well and will continue to be at the pace at which it is happening. Long-term projects, strategic projects, those initiatives where you need to collaborate beyond your immediate comfort group, those are going to get severely impacted if we continue to work from a completely basically on an online medium. And this is where I think the companies like ours, irrespective of which sector you are, need to look at it and see how do we bring those people together and make sure that kind of collaboration needs to work in. The second aspect which I want to talk about, again, it is industry agnostic, but the from an HR perspective is how do you create employee experiences in the new normal? Even if you go back to 7, what are the employee experiences? What are the we spend a lot of time and energy designing workspaces, designing habitation spaces, designing flexible workspaces, agile working methods, and open offices, closed offices, and suddenly all that's gone, right? Creating the employee experience continues to be on top of the agenda. So how do you create those employee experiences in the new hybrid workspace wherein you would have probably smaller offices working from home and office in a shared kind of environment, and in that kind of an environment, how do you do? I don't think there is a best practice which is already out, or there is a very clear mandate of how this should happen. But I think that there is a fair bit of time, energy, and thought process going into that aspect where I would like to see and understand what people are doing about it. coming very clearly to the healthcare sector, and I'll just take 1 more minute, Yojana, is the whole aspect of, I think there is a big shift. There's a lot of investment, and there was a lot of work happening in terms of lifestyle diseases, which is oncology, liver, cardio, etc. COVID brought the focus back to communicable diseases. Big shift that we are seeing in the healthcare sector, wherein people are focusing back on very, very elementary aspects of what are the communicable diseases, how do you control it, how do you manage it, and there's a whole lot of work which is happening about building immunity
Totally, yeah.
and working on
So,
those aspects.
thank you so much for your input. It was pretty pertinent, but I would still like to stick on to decoding what is going to change. And I have this particular question for Mr. Unmesh Pawar, since he comes from an industry which does a lot of trend spotting, future gazing for us. They're generally the people who come out with nice reports and credible data around what's going to change. So, Unmesh, getting back to you and your domain, and what's changing, and how would you define the new normal for workforce at your places?
I think all our panelists have kind of alluded to it in some way or shape, right? But I think there are three realities that are very clear, and we don't know how long this pandemic is going to play out. Three realities, and I'm going to tell you what the three are, and then try and dwell on each of these. The first one is clearly that at the end of this, and whenever this ends, organizations have no choice but to be more efficient than what they have already been. So that's the first reality. The second reality is that humans are now being considered as biohazards to an extent. And therefore, chances are very likely that organizations are going to have less and less people as they move forward. And the third reality is, and I think some of our colleagues have talked about it, all organizations are today questioning their real estate footprint. The chances very highly is that they're going to have much smaller real estate footprint than what they've had. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about each of these. And we did some surveys, like you said, reports that we publish around GCCs and other pockets. Coming to the first one, I think really about efficiencies. I think organizations, and when I said that in the opening, there's no choice now but for organizations to question and do what I call the zero-based budgeting, to really look at saying what is slack in the system and really question every discretionary spend item today to figure out how can it become economically more viable, keep its nose above the water. And I think all of that is going to force multiple things. One, I think organization structures are being questioned. Slack in the system is being questioned. And the exciting thing that COVID has done is has broken hierarchies to an extent and accelerated decision making. Now, whether that decision making has got accelerated because people are working crazy hours, that could be one, or because it's in a survival instinct, there is no choice but to take some decision over no decision. And the fact, like I said in my opening, that you cannot rely on data anymore to take decisions, right? These are gut calls that you have to take to say what can happen. So operating model changes, structural changes, flattening of organizations, hierarchies being blown away to push for more agility, more efficiency. That's the first part of the conversation. Second one, organizations will have lesser and lesser people, and we are seeing that, right? Organizations that have been rather change laggards or did not walk down the whole IoT, Internet of Things or Industry 4.0 journey, believing that we have enough people and we can hire people, and whether it's contract labor, etc., we can manage. Suddenly saw that with a threat to life, people's natural propensity was to go back to their close and near and dear ones. Now, that effectively means that organizations will have no choice but to accelerate on Industry 4.0. We do see higher spend organizations will do around the whole journey to cloud, journey to digital, moving the whole IoT journey. That's the big piece that is important. The second piece here is the whole push around reskilling. And organizations that are responsible organizations who do not want to create massive job losses are going to go through massive reskilling exercise to ensure that the talent is the talent that can take care of its needs going forward. So I think most of our clients, including us, are going through huge reskilling exercise to upskill our people and move forward with that. Connected with that, I think, is also an element, I think, which is really about, I think, what my colleague Mr. Gupta said. I think, what is this whole environment that you're going to have now? And I call it a distributed environment. People have anxiety. The GCC survey that we did with global captives, people are just anxious coming into work. In the absence of public transport being where it is, people do not want to come back to work. They feel they are productive, and therefore they feel there is no need for us to come to work. We will come to work on need basis, but otherwise we don't want to come to work. Now, with all of that, I think HR is genuinely being challenged to say, what does the whole hire to retire process would look like when you have people in their hometowns, people from client side, people working from home, and people wanting to come to work when it is need to come basis. How do you then manage an experience? How do you build a culture of the organization? How do you manage the entire thing digitally in a way that you can still build cohesion into the organization? And I think right now, as we speak, is interesting. We said that because we're running a design sprint within our organization to try and identify getting people to give us suggestions as well as the HR team together to say, how do you manage that? Coming to the last one, really around real estate, I think organizations potentially will blow up about 25-30% of real estate and shrink real estate. One of the things that's going to be interesting to see, a lot of people who haven't grown roots in a city are going to question the whole enigma or the whole reason to be in a big city. People are going to now look for choices of moving back to where they came from. If their organizations have offices which are closer to their hometowns, etc. I think if there is no big impact on their career and career developments, people would be willing to move back. I feel to their hometowns, which can offer a better quality of life. And I think in that also happen, how will organizations manage talent requirements across the country? Will clients and will your end customers be comfortable to be serviced by people anywhere? I think that's a model which is going to be interesting. So I think interesting things are happening. I don't believe, irrespective at the end of the COVID, I think as lockdowns got pulled back in different parts of the world, you saw people rushing to the beaches and all of those things happening. But I think it's a not immediate reaction of people to say, I just need to get out of my house. But I don't believe organizations will fall back, right? Organizations will have no choice but to have catapulted into the new world. And so this is some of the things that I see happening with our clients and with us in the marketplace. Back to you, Yosh.
I think a very big takeaway from your point here is that one needs to keep pace with the pace of his organization. You need to keep your eyes and ears open to understand what's the new normal at your workplace and try to keep up pace with that. Now, when all of us are discussing so much about COVID and workplaces and the changing things and the new norm, we have a very active audience here on this panel and at content.timesjobs.com who are pouring in question by heaps. They are pouring, there are a lot of questions around skill sets, around jobs of future, around workplaces of future. I'll very cautiously, I have selected a couple of questions that I think are relevant for this panel. I'll quickly take them one by one and direct them towards each of you. I'll begin with there's a question from a user called Saurav Day. He's a HR with HRAM at an IT firm. He's asking, Mr. Srinivas Chaitanya, this is a question for you. So, what is the best way to encourage tech workforce to upskill, especially when new things are coming in and there is a lot of uncertainty in the domain? So, how should one deal with it?
Great question, and thank you, Yojana. Let's take a step back. The tech world was actually undergoing a lot of transformation even before the pandemic. The skill sets were changing faster than ever before. The pace of change was fast. The shelf life of existing platforms and skills was drastically getting reduced. And then what the pandemic has done is it's actually accelerated some of these changes. It has made it faster. So, from a skill set perspective, every one of us have to stay relevant. We have to look at what are these skill sets that are changing as fast. So, I'll give you an example. Probably the last 10-15 years, we looked at some very narrow, deep skills. So, if you took a platform, you learned, let's say, any technology. But today, you have to be fungible across these skills. You got to be able to move across very, in a very agile way, and have to be able to learn and adopt very quickly. So I think having not just the technology skills, but having the collaboration skills, the softer skills, an open mindset to learn. Being an Olympic learner, our chairman, um, uh, that was his first day. He said,
I
"Look,
think
you
I
have to continue to be an Olympic learner." Um, and that is very, very relevant today, because what you know today and what you got you here today is not going to take you where you need to go tomorrow, at least from a skill set perspective. And it's not just platforms, it's all the other softer skills, open mindset, and adaptability. I have to stress it's the adaptability and the ability to thrive in this ever changing world as a skill is probably one of the fundamental things we all have to understand and learn. I think platforms will all learn and unlearn and relearn. That'll
okay. I
help.
think that's a great encapsulation. I think Mr. Saurav Day would have got his answer here, and that's quite a learning for all of us also as employees who think about upskilling as the quick pedestal for career progression. Next question I have is for from somebody called Rima Natu. She's asking, so while as HR team we are supposed to encourage everybody, but how should we remain encouraged when there's so much of at the workplace? I would let Mr. Vinay Razdan take over this question. Mr. Razdan, please answer this question for Rima.
So you must be having a good software which tells you which question should go where. But anyway, so one thing which struck me during the course of last few months is that one of the most important things which leaders should do, but they perhaps don't do enough of it, is to, in a focused way, lift the morale of people.
Okay.
Which typically we assume our discussions are around work, our discussions are around presentations, our discussions are around strategies, our discussions are so much around the task, that this whole collision of workspace and personal space and this working from home and long hours and burnouts, and I think leaders need to perhaps definitely spend much more time on spending uh, just creating a positive atmosphere in which you're able to lift the morale of people. And personally, I always believe that one of the qualities a good leader should have is a terrific sense of humor, which unfortunately no one wants to talk about, because it looks, you're not task oriented, you're not work is worship kind of a guy which we treasure in this country. So I think this, my HR colleagues who have asked this question from wherever, she is, I think it's the two parts to it. One is you look out and you expect others to lift you up. Other is you find ways of lifting up yourself. And then how do you lift people around you? But I think spreading positivity and in a focused way, spreading cheer and spreading, spreading that can-do spirit and spreading, lifting the morale, making people feel good. I think that's an important element which leaders need to focus much more on, my view.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that's going to be a seeding thought for all of us, whether we are in the workforce or whether we're just braving the crisis otherwise. I have another question coming down from it's actually about how to keep the fragmented teams motivated. I'd like Mr. Umesh Pawar to take this question. There's a lady called Rati Chavan. She's saying that, hi, I have worked in consultancy earlier. I understand how close knitted work is, but how do we ensure that fragmented teams, I think she means teams which are located in different geographies, keep working in such uncertain times?
I think it's a great point. I'm going to take off from what Vinay said. I think these are times when one attribute which we don't think or talk enough about becomes very important, and that is trust. Right? And we know that today, we look at any institution that we were holding sacred today, each of those institutions is getting blown up, right? And whether it's education, religion, whatever it is, everything is getting tested. And I think if the last research that we saw, that people still trust their organizations. And I think there's a need for organizations to step up. And I think in times and difficult times like these, especially so now and going forward, the actions that we as leaders take is going to be instrumental in what people will remember, because scars that we create now will be remembered for times to come, right? I think therefore it's first, I think, is what are leaders doing to really build trust into the ecosystem is going to be very important. And therefore, are you being guided by principles, or is there a knee jerk reaction every day, right? I mean, on one, we see so much of things. One day there is a funding that a particular startup gets, in another month you see they're laying off people. So I understand there are economics that you need to take care of, but I think, what principles are you running the organization with? These are times when people's security needs are challenged the most. Are you as a leader being transparent, honest, and sharing with people what's happening, and therefore are decisions being taken in an open, transparent manner? That's the first thing. Second, these are times, and working in a distributed environment, it's easy when you're bumping against each other in a coffee or having a drink on a Friday evening, the project team's having a drink over a Friday evening. These are times when you cannot do that. And communication needs to be accentuated. I mean, it's great that during the in the 1911 flu, you didn't have technology, but now you have technology to access, whether it is Skype, MS Teams, Zoom, WhatsApp video, whatever kind of stuff that you have. But you have the ability to connect and communicate. You need 25-30% more communication to happen to get the same thing done than what was happening when you were face to face. So I think you cannot uh, ignore the importance of communication. The third one is, I think, and when I said that, we need to have more and more. This is leadership getting tested. We need to have leaders who are who speak with an intent to inspire and build trust in people, and are listening with an intent to really learn and what we can do better. And I think taking care of the human that is working for you is most important, because right now people are going through multitude of challenges, right? Whether it's on the personal front, on the professional front, the insecurity that they're dealing with, and anything that we as leaders can do to let people know that we are backing them up, we are there, and we will swim or sink together, I think is important. So a long answer to a short question, but I think there is no silver bullet around this. But I think it's about what I call as Monday morning leadership, doing the basic things every day and doing it much more than what we did before.
Okay.
Back to you, Rajana.
Thank you so much. Some good, very positive insights coming in from there. I have a question from audience. Her name is Bhaswati. She says, I would like Mr. Gopinath Pulaigari to take it. He has written, "Sir, I'm a HR manager, and I would like to know how back to the physical workspaces after 1 year." I think what she's meaning to say is that now all of us are working virtually, and how to gradually come back to work, maybe when things, situations are favorable. Mr. Pai, please take up this query.
So I think the first question to ask is gradually come back to work. Are our employees ready to come back to work? Is the first question that we probably need to ask during this pandemic. While we at Verizon ran a survey, I think 50% of our employees were looking forward to come to work. And 50% of employees had a lot of fear coming to work. How do we address those fears? Firstly, coming back to work. So these are both internal and external, if I have to look at it in two ways. Internally, what are we doing as an organization to create an environment that is healthy for our employees, in case when the employees come back, they're ready and fit to come in. How are we sanitizing some of our basic stuff? How are we going non-touch, be it the elevators, be it the swipe cards? How is it becoming facial recognition? How are cafeterias saying they are just like your flight, saying they're engaged, they're not engaged? How are your toilets saying? All of these we were able to put into a video and educate our employees. We started calling our town halls or road shows, calling them as air shows or podcasts, where we called employees and told them, "Hey, come and ask us whatever you thought you had fears in terms of that." So employees started coming back and saying, "How are we going to vet people who are going to come into the organization?" We built an app to say, "Hey, if you're coming into the organization, you will need to answer a set of questions at any point of time going forward from now, to say that these are the 5 questions, and the app allows you an entry into the office, or decides not to come into office. And how do you maintain hygiene in the office?" I think these were BAU stuff which most companies do, but I think a larger point of what we really wanted to look at is the undermining sentiment of empowering an employee to have the choice of working either from home or from work. Today, we are 100% in terms of productivity. There's nothing that's really pressing our employees to come back to work. There's an overwhelming urge of our employees wanting to come back, missing the social ecosystem. But at the same time, we want to really weigh down what are the pros and cons from that perspective. So what we have really done is to split the organization into four broad categories from A to D, and then talk about 25% coming in each week, if and when the underlying factor being if and when the offices are ready to operate and open, and the fundamental driver to all of that being the employee safety, health, and the employee choice. It's not a must in our case. In our case, the employee is empowered to say, I feel safe and secured working out of home, so I have that choice to do so. That's where we are driving our future to. But I think it's imperative, just like what Umesh said, like Srinivas spoke about, and Razdan and Rohit, Razdan spoke about, Vinay Razdan spoke about, is about communication.
Okay.
I think what we have done from that perspective is we were having monthly town halls, we were having quarterly town halls. I think today we have taken it upon ourselves, the CEO and the global HR head. We call it up to speed at Verizon, where they come on the face of our employees and keep them posted. A small 2 to 3 minute video every single day. There is a communication overflow and burst coming into our employees to keep them connected to the larger part of the organization. So, a long answer to your short question. I think the onus is on having the facilities ready, and the second onus is about preparing the employees and the employee willingness and readiness to come back to work. I think these are three conditions that we need to look at internally. Externally, I think those are all a lot of fluid. Government and the number of cases, I think that continue to be things that we cannot control.
Okay, I think a big takeaway for Bhaswati from this input from Mr. Gopinath Pulaigari should be that constant communication and in tandem communication will help teams to gradually get back to workplaces more seamlessly. I have a question from Kshama Rani for Mr. Rohit Vishal Gupta. I'd really like you to take this question, sir. She's saying, sir, COVID is not going to end anytime soon. We have to keep our businesses running. How to stay productive in such challenging time?
Interesting question. Thank you. See, as I said earlier, the productivity is an element of how we manage what we are supposed to do in the context. And the context is that it would be very different if you're a services person, if you're a salesperson, if you are in one of the functions where you need to work in office, you're an individual contributor, if you're a leader. So for each of them, the meaning of productivity would be different, and hence some bit of context is important there. But I think I would go by hence take the discussion to a slightly different level and say that the productivity is basically all about being able to deliver what you're supposed to deliver while making sure that you manage the other aspects of your life happily in a healthy manner, which basically means managing your own self. And this links to the previous question wherein how do HR manage its own self while you are managing others? So I think I look at it from a four perspectives. One is managing self, managing work, managing home, and there is also an element of managing community, your role in the community as a friend, as a husband, as a parent, or as a child, and in the larger community wherein we stay. So if you are able to find the right balance between these four elements of one's life, and then be able to say how are you disciplined about the way you go about your day, and the whole boundary of work and home being diminished or being fused into each other. I think it is extremely important that we get extremely disciplined about the workspace that we create at home, about the time space that we create in the day. And now that the weekend is fused into days, the mornings, evenings, extended work hours, it's perfectly fine. You start your day at 7 in the morning, work till about 9, take a break, then again take a break at about 2 o'clock, take care of some home chores, etc. So use those boundaries flexibly, but make
Okay.
sure that you balance your time in a manner that you take care of various aspects of your life and hence be able to deliver. And I think the whole fragility of getting disturbed and trying to take care of home while you're doing work and trying to take care of kids while you're managing some calls, etc. I think that the very, very important aspect is to be able to, in a disciplined manner, be put those boundaries of time, of space, of infrastructure around you, and be able to, in your context, be able to work around it. I think uh, we have seen that people start taking care of a lot of issues which have arisen, and the new rhythms fall in place, and then it gets a bit more manageable. That's what I can say at a very broad level. Thank you.
Totally. I think COVID or no COVID, as workplaces and even the workforces should be attuned to the fact that we will have to work virtually or maybe in office, and we should be, prepared with. There should be. It's a more of a mindset issue, and less of an infra issue. I have saved the most savage question for the last. I will direct it to Sonal Jain. I have this question from Shipank Sharma. He says, how should HR teams keep the morale of workforce up in such tough times when even job certainty is uh, for so many is at stake? Okay, he means to say when the job certainty is also dim, how should HR teams keep their workforce morale up?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And it's a very, very heartening and a very relevant question. So thank you for that. I think couple of things. First, let me talk a little personally. I think everybody's needs are very different, and everybody is going through a very different time right now. Like I keep saying, we are not in the same boat. We are in the same storm because all our boats are very different right now, right? Some of us have different situations at home. Some of us have different situations in the office place, right? So, one is how do we understand the needs of every individual? And that's a big role that HR fraternity plays in enabling aligned managers to understand. And that's one area where I think a lot of positivity and motivation comes through. I think the second is being very clear what are we trying to save and protect? Are we trying to save and protect our organization? Are we trying to save and protect our jobs? Are we trying to save and protect our compensation? Are we trying to save and protect the well being, right? And all of them could be and, all of them could be or. So it's very important for us to understand very deeply aligned to our purpose. What are we trying to save for? And whatever is a decision, because I fundamentally believe every organization is trying to do their best. So, what are we trying to save? Let's be absolutely transparent and ruthlessly honest to our employees in terms of communicating what's our stand as an organization. Thirdly, it's very important to express gratitude and recognition in these times. And I don't believe we need to have too many frameworks, but I think fundamentally we recognize and acknowledge the difficulty that everybody is going through. So, for example, we in J&J have a platform called Inspire, where we can recognize any individual for different kinds of situations that they are in and the kind of contributions that they make, and at the same time using just a small little thank yous to really ensure that people are going through different situations, and it doesn't require just a step up and a step down to say I really thank you for what you did today, right, as a peer, as your team member, as your boss, as somebody who's working very virtually in a different part of the world. So it's very important to build that cultural fabric and a nuance in the organization to ensure that we are absolutely open, transparent, honest, authentic, and at the same time acknowledging whatever each individual is going through in these tough times, because it is indeed a tough time, right? And to me, that those are the two things that is defining a lot of motivation and preserving the fabric based on the purpose of whichever organization that we are part of.
Okay, I think these are pretty hopeful words that I think should resonate with all of us. Yes, yes, Mr. Razdan, you have a point here to make.
Yeah, Yodha, I just wanted to make a point, not taking anything away from what Sonal said, but to the person who asked this question. You see, if you take the size of a HR team in any organization, it will be 0.5% or 1% or 2% of the total headcount. So for the HR team to have this sense of responsibility that it is the 1% of the HR team, which is it's their job to lift the morale of 99%, is an undoable job from my point of view. I think fundamentally it's the role of the leader. And if they are looking for HR to lift the morale, it tells you the leadership is not doing his job for that work group. And that's where the intervention of HR should get focused to ensure that at the right levels of leadership, the right interventions are placed to ensure that their teams are experiencing positivity and they're experiencing high morale. Just a small point. Thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. I think those inputs will resonate with a lot of us, even when the discussion is over. Our partners, HDFC Bank, have prepared a little nugget about what they're doing in COVID 19 for their customers and their workplaces. I would like to welcome Akhilesh Kumar Roy, Branch Banking Head and National Head for Sales Excellence and Transformation for HDFC Bank, and Mr. Siddharth Gupta, Program Head Corporate Salary and Leads, Sale Enablement and Go-to-Market Planning at HDFC Bank, to please take over the panel and take us quickly through their presentation.
थैंक यू वेरी मच योजना और यहाँ से आगे की योजना मैं खुद बनाता हूँ good afternoon and warm wishes to each one of you esteemed customers and patrons, both existing and prospective, eminent panelists and speakers, and all the very respectable industry stalwarts and veterans attending this webinar, and of course the young budding managers. So at the outset, I would like to make a few disclaimers. We will not be able to complete our talk in the stipulated 20 odd minutes allocated to us, but we will do it a shade earlier. And hence we'll be very conscious of the time and will not bore you with any information that is not relevant to this August audience and present numbers and growth figures, since most of us do not derive any statistical pleasure out of them, and certainly not this HR forum. But still, for sticklers to statistics, we just declared our quarter one results, wherein we registered a 20% YOY growth in our profits. So jumping straight into the presentation, we are the most valuable Indian brand as endorsed by brands and featured consistently in the top 100 global brands. And that is a matter of great national pride as well. It is one of our stated objectives to be the most customer obsessed brand across categories and not just banks in this country. मुश्किल है, पर हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं, and will not stop till the goal is achieved. Some of the innumerable accolades and recognitions that have come our way, and we dedicate it to all our esteemed customers and colleagues in the bank who only but breathe customer centricity. As should be expected, and there are a lot of this, and I'll not belabor on the accolades that have come our way, but dedicated to our esteemed customers. As should be expected of a large enterprise, registering good profits and creating wealth for its shareholders, we do have to give it back to the society at large, and have aptly named our corporate social responsibility initiative as Parivartan, meaning change. The broad areas in which we are very actively participating and engaging are rural development, and we have registered a reach of more than 1,300 villages and 4 lakh plus households, 40,000 plus kitchen gardens we've helped set up, 28,000 plus solar lights, and there are many other things that we do under that rural development aspect of our Parivartan program. And then we do a lot of work in the education sphere, covering almost 2.62 lakh schools. And we have upskilled and reskilled a lot of almost 20 lakh teachers, and almost 2 crore students have been directly and indirectly impacted through our various interventions in the education field. Then skill training and livelihood enhancement is something which we are very proud of. Almost 7.8 lakh women and entrepreneurs we have been able to create, and more than 7,500 self-help groups which have been formed and trained by us, and that enables them to sustain their own livelihood. And on the healthcare and hygiene, again, almost 29,000 toilets have been constructed, and a host of other initiatives that we take under the financial literacy and inclusion. So that is about the most important thing on the corporate social responsibility part. During the COVID times also, as you saw, we have made a decent contribution to the PM Care Fund, and we have been supporting the COVID warriors both at the front end and we have been distributing a lot of PPE kits, ventilators to some of the hospitals, government setups, and also actively engaged in feeding the daily wagers and the migrant laborers. And here I would just like to also mention that for all our salary customers that we have, and there's an insurance scheme that comes along with the salary offering. And I'm extremely proud to mention here that the insurance claim settlement for all the salary customers over the last few years, we have been doing more than 5 crore plus settlements and almost more than 400 cases of insurance settlements that we do. So moving on, banking in the new normal, we have already talked a lot about it, and I would not like to delve further into it, but just pick up some of the important interventions that we have done, besides enabling the entire workforce with which Vinay touched upon, and how have we been able to ensure that almost 1.5 lakh colleagues of our uh, work from anywhere. That is one of the important things that has already been enabled. But as far as the customers and esteemed patrons are concerned, and as mentioned earlier, at the cost of repetition, our customers' faith in us and our colleagues are the reasons for our being the second largest bank and having greater than almost 35% of the market capitalization of the banking industry. So, what I wanted to re-emphasize here is that while there is a near parity or parity in terms of the product offerings that most of the good banks have to offer, a few firsts to our name which stood us and our customers in good stead during this pandemic and the lockdowns was migrating completely to the contactless account opening, both through the video KYC and in the absence of the video KYC also you can still end up and these are completely unassisted journeys which the customers can do in a matter of few minutes. And again, on the contactless banking fulfillments, uh, contactless origination, fulfillment, and disbursal of practically every loan that you can possibly think of. So these are some of the interventions that were done in order to ensure that the customers are not inconvenienced, besides keeping our branches up and running almost every time and every day. And it's a matter of great pride that barring orders and orders from the administrative setup in the district or the area in which the branch operates, all our branches have opened on each and every single day. So something very relevant to this audience here, and which we have started recently with respect to the customer engagement and outreach, and which we call virtual customer engagement. I would request my colleague Siddharth to quickly and briefly talk us through them, and also on some of the exclusive and compelling propositions of our premium banking services and programs and the corporate salary account features. But for as I mentioned in the earlier part of my conversation, we'll also talk about some of the very exciting stuff that we have to offer to all our esteemed customers, like how about paying 7,500 rupees less for a Motorola mobile phone. And this monsoon, how about getting 17.5% cash back on the Samsung range of televisions and the washing machines, and the host of other benefits, 5x reward points for Disney Hotstar subscription, and there are a host of blockbusters lined up for release in the next week or month to that extent. So that is a lot of such compelling propositions. I would request quickly, Siddharth, if you can just talk us through.
Yeah, thanks, Akhilesh. I believe the biggest challenge that we saw at the beginning of March onwards was that with 4.5 crore customers who interact and transact directly with the bank without any intermediaries, how to reach out to them and how to make them comfortable in their banking needs. So before COVID period, we used to have close to 10,000 physical engagements in corporates in different organizations where our representatives used to touch base with the customers. This entire 10,000 activities rock bottom, and what we evolved was a virtual version of all this. So presently, we are doing all the virtual inductions for all the new joinees in the corporates, where large corporates invite us onto their platform, and we have created our own platforms for mid-sized corporates, where we invite them to have the induction sessions. Customers are hesitant to visit the branches because of fear and because of safety. So we have created a virtual help desk where every month a session is kept for each corporate, and the employees can post their queries, questions, their needs, and the bank representatives are available virtually to address those on a video call. Simultaneously, we are doing a lot of virtual engagement activities hovering around financial well-being as well as health and physical well-being, which is a very useful, very engaging for the employees in different corporates. And of course, a program that we are holding right now, like Spectrum, which is national level events and uniquely curated for specific target groups. These we have started.
A lot of the panelists mentioned about the emotional anxiety which the employees are going through, and such times do call for a lot of financial planning, and we would be more than happy to assist any one of you and each one of you if you so desire.
So a couple of quick points, Akhilesh, that I'm sharing on how we have made digital journeys, how and what we are offering to the corporates and their employees, because the consumer behavior is also changing, and the online spending that's evolving, and that's at a new different level altogether in present times. So just a quick one, we have launched Invest Now platform, which is a robo advisory, artificial intelligence based financial planning tool, and it is nearly a do-it-yourself kind of a platform where everybody from top management, middle management, junior management in every organization can register themselves over net banking and avail this service. We've also launched the My Account, My Choice, which is a customized account number that can be given to the employees, to our customers. And in the present times, a very relevant product that's been launched is a digital loan against shares and mutual funds. So it is a completely contactless product offering, which is benefiting a lot of our customers. Our credit cards ensure that nearly 33% saving on our internal Smart Buy platform, which is a bank's own online shopping platform. When people go there and shop, they earn up to 33% savings and reward points, which is the best in the industry. Also, the cards offer a unique features of airport lounge access, free golf lessons. I will summarize towards the end of the presentation. What is the actual rupee value of benefits that can be derived if someone's actually banking with HDFC? So what we are also offering is complimentary annual memberships. These all features and benefits, friends, come along with the salary accounts that get opened with the bank and the salary account relationships that we're establishing. There are a whole host of features and a lot of banks offer. For example, I talk about the personal accidental life insurance cover. While it's sort of a standard feature in the corporate salary offering, but I take pride in sharing that it's also the claim settlements, which really distinguishes HDFC Bank on an annual basis. Nearly 50 crores of claim settlement on the personal accidental life insurance that we do, for which the employees, the corporates do not have to pay a premium. It's a standard offering on their corporate salary account, and the bank provides the claim settlement very timely and in a very fast manner. So we have also in the bouquet of offerings a 10-second personal loan, online contactless disbursals, and applications of two-wheelers, car loans, credit cards. So we have designed over the last 3 months all our product journeys in a complete digital manner, where the customers do not have to visit the branch. From application to disbursal happens completely online. And during the COVID period, we have also launched our Salary Plus product, which is an overdraft facility up to 3 times the net salary of the employee.
And all of it is available real time on the net banking within 10 seconds.
Right. So as I was mentioning that all the benefits that come in, it's also the changing consumer behavior towards shopping, online shopping. So we have got a host of cashback facilities available with 5% cashbacks on Pays app and the Smart Buy platform of HDFC, 2.5% cashback on online spends, 1% cashback on offline spends and wallet reloads, and 4 complimentary lounge access per year. So these are specifically the target segment specifically is our new age employees and the new joinees who are coming into the organizations. So what we have done is, I'll just talk about how we are connecting with the customers. We have built a relationship management architecture, where from the top management to middle and junior management, everybody can have a relationship manager in the bank. So at a corporate level, we have got key corporate managers who handle the entire salary relationship, engage with the HR teams in the organization. For handling the financial side, we have our corporate banking and our business banking teams who manage the lending and other products. And for individual employee needs, we have got individual relationship managers who handle a portfolio of around 150 employees or 150 customers in the portfolio. So all our corporate salary customers, right, in the middle, junior management and senior management, they can get a relationship manager, and they really do not need to visit any branch for any transactional needs. Most of it gets delivered and done with the relationship manager virtually. So quickly summarizing what benefits out of all the various spendings that we do, a lot of online shopping that we do, the complimentary insurance cover that we provide on the salary accounts, what kind of benefits accrue in rupee value term to the employees. So someone who's at a salary of approximately 25,000 rupees per month on an annual basis can save
few things to reflect on, I think, as we go through this pandemic and be ready for more that come on. I think more and more as we go through this, I think the need for us to be able to connect our people to a larger purpose. And I think connecting back to community, connecting about what we are really making the impact and what we're doing is important. And I think leading the organization with its values. I think values, we all talk about it, but I think these are times when leaders need to step up and lead through that. Second, I think is about dialogue. We need to facilitate and create more dialogue in the organization, because now suddenly those serendipitous moments where people could bump into each other over a coffee, etc., have vanished. So you need to force dialogue and conversation within the organization. HR and we as HR professionals have a big role to work with our leadership and shape the narrative, right? I think we live in this narrative of anxiety about coming back to work if we need to come back to work. But I think there's a role in shaping the narrative, because I think we have a role to play on how we tackle this and live with Corona going forward. We talked about this a little bit, but I think experimentation and innovation is really going to be critical. Where innovation happens, what innovation, and when it happens is important. And I think as an agile organization, we have no choice but to constantly invent and reinvent ourselves. Flexibility, I think hierarchies have been blown and we need to keep them blown. We need to bring much more accelerated decision making in the organization, keep the transparency. And the lastly, I think Sonal said it well, so did Gopinath. I think we need to understand that as organizations, we have a responsibility to the community that we operate in. And when we talk about the triple bottom line, I think planet, people, and profits, I think we need to work across all of them in a seamless manner. And it's never been as tested as now. So on that note, Rosna, back to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pawar. I would next like to take some inputs from Ms. Sonal Jain on how to make the most of this crisis as an employee. How should you, look out for the opportunities and make the most of this crisis?
Yeah. So thank you so much, and very heartening to see the presentation from HDFC Bank. So thank you so much. Just top three things on my mind. I think one is staying very true to the purpose. Consumers and customers, and what are their needs is going to define what do we do and how do we do it. Second is agility, judgment, and conversation, because there are decisions that we don't have a rule book now for. So what are the kind of decisions we are going to make is going to define next many years to come, which is going to impact our community, society, our consumer, customer, and our own employees. So that becomes very relevant. And third, to my mind, is empathy, care, and being very optimistic, but staying very, very clued on to reality. Because not just optimism, but realism also will matter a lot in what do we do and how do we thrive. And like I said, it is about a story of surviving to thriving for everybody, which is very different in different parts. So that's really going to be my closing statement. But thank you so much.
Surviving to thriving. I think my input, my takeaway from your input would be surviving to thriving is going to be the key. May I now please invite Mr. Vinay Razdan for his inputs on how to spot opportunities in the present crisis.
So Yojana, I talked about sense of humor. So it's incumbent on me to make some wisecrack in this panel. Unmesh was talking about blowing away the hierarchy. So I was thought for a moment that if we actually do that, then how are we going to do this kind of a panel discussion? Because you typically look for people at a certain level in the hierarchy to get a panel discussion going. But on a very serious note, and this is a small message to the large number of people who may be connected. I think I heard a lot about communication which organizations are doing. I think whilst we may be doing a lot of communication which is required and which is landing well, but we must ensure that the first line of the communication is whether my job is safe or not. If you're not going to address that and you're going to talk about 100 other things, the basic anxiety which a person is having, that is I'm at home, what I am doing, is it something still relevant in the organizational schema or not? And that's the first, I think, sense of security organizations must provide to their people, and even to the actions that you've taken. You need to be transparent and honest about them. And if you are able to build that trust, which a lot of panelists also talked about, I think it's an important thing. But coming to my take on this whole situation, I think it's an opportunity. I'll just give you an example. I refer to the business continuity calls that we started to have immediately after COVID came in. And to my very pleasant surprise, I found all senior people talking about how many e-courses their people had done. Certainly that became one very clear and measurable indicator of deployment and productivity of people at home. So that led me to believe that this whole business of working from home is going to be a huge tailwind for training, because for people that you're going to be who will be operating out of that kind of an environment, you will definitely have one of the measures of productivity: the courses assigned and the courses covered. On the other thing, I think clear opportunities for human resources professionals, because the complete architecture of HR was centered around a physical workplace. From your hiring strategies to your culture creating strategies to your performance assessment strategies to XYZ rewards, and the whole thing. So I think with the debate between physical and digital being settled forever, and that creates huge opportunities for efficiencies also for organization, I think there is a lot of work which HR teams will have to figure out in that space, that what to do and how to do, and how to make processes. For example, I think if you were to ask me one word, which we will hear more and more as we go forward, is there will be a sense of tangibility about everything. Because you're talking productivity, you're looking for outcomes. Till now, in organizations, we hire for roles. I think increasingly one shift you will find is that we'll be hiring for specific outcomes. Okay. That leads to another trend of gig work, which a lot of people you could assign work to, and a lot of people may choose to work for multiple companies, So there is a huge, these shifts that will take place, will take some years to pan out. They're not going to happen overnight, right? But these are significant opportunities. And if there is one thing, I think, which I would really emphasize on is, I think, well-being of people needs to be something that all of us need to be focused on at organization level. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for your input. I would next reach out to Mr. Chaitanya Srinivas for his summary points and some tips on how to navigate through the present crisis.
And thanks, Yojana. I think a lot has been said, but I just want to throw out one study that was done some time back. About 50% of the roles that exist today in our space did not exist 3 years ago. Probably also the other 50% won't exist in the next 3 years. So we all spoke about agility, we spoke about open mindsets, adopting to change. I think it's thriving in change. That is something we'll have to make sure we're all comfortable with. New roles will come up. You look at HR itself. Today, I look at my team. We have solution architects, we have data engineers, we have SPSS experts sitting inside HR, running a lot of the AI algorithms, engines, etc. on data. So if you just look at that, there's going to be a lot of changes that have already happened, and it'll happen even faster. So I think staying engaged, we spoke about the new environment, staying engaged at every level, having different networks, and embracing this digital world. I think all of these are going to be spoken about a lot. But really, as employees, as employers, we have to look at these things that are coming our way. And let's not forget, clients are driving it. It's the environment as well. It's not just us, it's the clients that are driving all of these changes. And that impact is going to come to us, and we have to be ready for it. So let me pause there, Yojana, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chaitanya Srinivas. I think for me as a moderator and for me as a person who writes on HR, I would have clearly three takeaways from all this discussion here. What we see as a crisis is actually an opportunity to maybe try out things that none of us have ever tried or have even thought of. There are three things that we should that really make sense at this point of time. We should communicate effectively with our colleagues and as an employer to our workforce to keep everybody in the tangent and to lessen the anxiety of the workforce and your peers and people around. And second is transparency is the key to keep things moving. As peers, as colleagues, as workers, as employers, I think it will help if a lot of us imbibe transparency within our day-to-day schedules or communication. That will help us straighten out a lot of stress and iron and steam that we are witnessing right now. And third is to keep pace with the pace of the organization. Tough times call for tougher decisions and tougher people. So keeping that in tandem, I think it's whether you're an employee or an employer, you have to be lean, mean, and slick, and you have to keep pace with your competitors as well as your business environment, and that is the only way to survive. I think a couple of important pointers that are a very esteemed and enriched panel pointed out here today. I must thank each one of you for sparing this valuable time, for sharing your inputs, and really sharing those advice on how to navigate through the times of crisis. I must also thank my gracious audience who've been listening to us. And there are a heap of comments, and I believe more than 980 comments have come in on our message board. A lot of people are thanking each one of you. Some of them said that they really liked the talk about, FOMO catching on among workforce, or how to keep anxiety at bay. Somebody called Karmakar has put in a comment, a thank you note, saying that he was very enlightened to hear about keeping pace with the pace of the organization and how to go about it. I must thank my gracious audience also who've been listening to all our inputs very sincerely throughout this discussion. Thank you, Mr. Unmesh Pawar, Mr. Gopinath, Sonal Jain, Mr. Vinay Razdan, Mr. Rohit Vishal Gupta, and Mr. Gopinath Pulaigiri, and Mr. Rohit Vishal Gupta. Thank you so much, everybody. And it was an honor to be your moderator today. Thank you so much. With that, I'd like to call this panel discussion to a wrap, and we will get in touch with you. Maybe I'd love to host you guys on some other panel, a different topic, some more enlightened discussion some other day. Thank you.
Thank you, Yojana.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you very
you
much.
very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Okay.